Everyone, it's your boy Matt. This is Taco Admin. I'm doing the Jocko Willing thing, except I'm a bit more hardcore than that guy. So it's currently 4:22 in the morning, and I have to get those extra couple of minutes in because I'm living a little bit further on the edge than that guy, and I'm currently dealing with a situation which I'm not afraid of, but it's the kind of thing that you just have to deal with. So I live in Ainslie Village. Ainslie Village is a continuation of the prison system, and my housemates are people who have either most usually have a serious drug problem or have spent some time in prison, and we have some conflicts. And tonight is just one of those conflicts. It's one of those things that usually pass. Usually people see the sense that all you need to do is get along and not have problems and not invade people's houses and just not be a cunt, and then there isn't a cycle of violence. But the cycle of violence usually gets started and it just continues ramping up from there. Because and After you live in that environment for a while, everyone has characteristics which are not, and I wouldn't call myself a psychopath, but I'm definitely not a person who feels anything when inflicting harm on someone when it is justified. I just feel absolutely nothing. Like, and that being said, it's a cycle of violence. It's a cycle of violence which isn't useful. It's a cycle of violence which occurs in environments like this all the fucking time, and it's a very normal story. The difference with me, though, is that, and similarly to the other people there, and the reason why this stuff takes place is because these people have no place to go, and that's why the conflict happens. There's less conflict in a place like Ainslie Village than there is in an actual prison, because in an actual prison everyone's sort of locked in together. And that means when there is a disagreement or a conflict and you've got all these people who are psychopaths locked in together, what will happen is that the cycle of violence becomes more intense because they're locked in, they can't get away from each other. In my situation, I can just go for a fucking walk and it's not a problem. These people run out of steam and it moves on to the next day, and we figure out how to live with each other without stabbing each other, although that option is always on the table. Now, it's frustrating and annoying. I would prefer not to live in Ainslie Village. I'd prefer my life not to have this constant cycle of drama, so I'd be able to pick myself up and move on to the next stage of my life. I'd really prefer just not to be bastardized by the police and other authorities in general, so that was something which was possible. So I wasn't trapped in this cycle of being abused and enforced poverty. But this is life, and you just have to deal with it how it is. But I am making this video now because it functions as somewhat of a statement of what's going on. My currently having people try. I've got a housemate who is a psychopath, who's currently using cockroach bombs to try and get me out because of a very minor and unnecessary disagreement. Again, these people are often narcissistic, egotistical psychopaths, and it doesn't take much to find yourself in a situation where there is a cycle of violence. And because these are behaviors which people have learned in places like prison or even living in the village for long enough, like I'm used to these games now, they just they come and they're unnecessary. The biggest thing is, in general, don't steal people's crap, right? So that's something which gets you in trouble. Don't owe people money. Don't invade people's homes. Don't be an undercover cop or someone who's come in from law enforcement, because those people are sadists and they usually create more problems than they solve. And really, the thing is to just live and let live. if you need boundaries, you can write them up and say them formally, but a lot of these people haven't developed that basic level of social skill, which is why they have these cycles of violence and escalation, because they're used to just being able to the behaviors that they've been shown how to get what they want are violence and aggression. The downside to that is that it's also a community which is pinched in with the bureaucracy of often clueless people who are responsible for administering places like Ainslie Village. There's also, of course, many very talented staff who work there, and I have a lot of respect for many of the staff there. But in general, I'm making this video as a form of documentation of what's happening. I'm in this position because I'm being bastardized by the authorities, and I need that to stop. It's gotten to the point where I seriously doubt there's going to be any legal issues for me, like such as a prosecution, because I haven't done anything wrong, and the police have finally gotten that to that conclusion. However, the nature of the continued abuse by people that I've had to call out in the community as a person who is skilled in this fucking role does mean that there is somewhat of a pinning. But what is really the problem is the over involvement of authorities such as police, hence why I haven't called the police in this situation. I try to avoid that at all costs. I think bringing authorities into a situation like this increases the amount of bad blood, and it's always better to find a basic and decent solution. My primary goal in life is to remove abuse and interference in my life by the authorities. That's what I want more than anything in the fucking world. And I'm actually more tolerant of being around a community and more tolerant of this kind of behavior, because I prefer that to abuse by the authorities. Now, that's the Tac0 admin for today. I hope everyone has a good morning, good day, and I'm going to continue moving forward. I'm finishing the video at 4:30 in the morning. Have a good day, everyone.